My favorite kinds of horror games are bait and switch. When the game first appears friendly and innocent, but the more you dig into it, its true colors revealed to the player. My favorite examples are Doki Doki Literature Club, Shipwreck 64, Catastrophe Crow, Men of the Adventurer, and some more. But there's one I came across recently that has become my most favorite, a game that deserves way more recognition called Happy the Hippo. Happy the Hippo first comes across as an unreleased 3D platforming game for the PS2 ported directly to the PC from a demo build dated on August 26, 2001. Created by a company called Cyclone Digital, the description claims the demo features one playable level with 15 missions, and a trailer for the game can be viewed. The trailer looks normal at first glance until the very end when you can see this. Make sure to remember this later on when we take a deep dive into the game, but I want to first talk about some outside media relating to this game, starting with the Cyclone Digital website. According to the About Us section on the official Cyclone Digital website, Cyclone Digital is a game studio first established in 1998 in the state of Oregon with 17 total workers. The studio claims they specialize in creating games that derive from popular cartoons, movies, and other media. Most of the links on the website don't work, but the ones that do work are the links button and the context information button. The links page shows the official Happy the Hippo website, which we'll get into later, another website called grumbaismallgames.com, which doesn't work anymore. This website was most likely the actual creator's website, Grumbo. The contacts page, sure enough, gives us contacts for Cyclone Digital, including an address supposedly for the studio. To save you guys the time, the address doesn't actually link to the studio, but instead takes you to some random manufacturing building that, as far as I know, isn't related to Cyclone Digital at all. There's also a phone number and email address linked, but clicking to reveal the full phone number doesn't work. A user in the Happy the Hippo Discord server, Lo, found out that typing in /images/ to the Cyclone Digital website brings you to an index of images. The first image is simply the Cyclone Digital logo, but the second photo, titled field.png, is very interesting. As described by the file name, it is simply just a picture of a field in the resolution size 640 by 480. What makes this even more interesting is that attempting to reverse image search gives 0 results, making the photo likely authentic. However, I cannot confirm where the exact location this photo was taken, but my best guess is that it might be somewhere in Oregon, and maybe even at the address linked on the Cyclone Digital website, but the significance of this location is unknown to me. Another site related to Happy the Hippo is the official website for the game. However, as far as I know, there isn't anything to note on there. There's tips and tricks for the game, 3 games you could play on the website, and wallpapers, coloring pages, and a cursor you could download. But again, there isn't anything to note there, so let's move on to the YouTube channel for the game. On March 29, 2022, a channel was made on YouTube called Happy the Hippo Archive. If you couldn't tell from the name, the channel's sole purpose is to archive anything relating to the game. The first video on the channel was uploaded on October 26, 2022, titled Happy Lighting Test 01, with the description reading,
"Test footage for Happy's lighting system. I'm not sure if the original tape is mixed in somewhere with the other stuff, since over half the tapes aren't labeled or dated. We'll have to sort through that later."
The video is nothing special, just showing the lighting system for the game, but one thing to note in the video is around the 33-second mark when Happy the Hippo and the floating objects around him go completely dark. It's likely that there's nothing deep to it, but I thought it should be pointed out just in case. On the same day the lighting test video was released, another video was released called Henry the Hippo PS2 prototype footage. Apparently, during production of this game, Happy the Hippo was originally named Henry the Hippo, and there's a lot of stuff in this video that's different to the demo build released. The main factor being the fact that Happy the Hippo was orange for some reason, and in the demo build of the game, the collectibles are frogs, but in this prototype, the watermelons can be seen as collectibles instead. The next video is a trailer for the game, released on October 8th, 2023. Nothing to note here except for the description that reads,
"In early 2022, a good friend of mine generously shared with me a treasure trove of files and information for a cancelled PS2 game called Happy the Hippo, which was a key developer on back in the early 2000s. From the first few minutes of digging through the beta footage, design documents, and barely functional demo disc, I fell in love immediately. With this permission and a formal okay from the original developers, I gathered as much info on the game as possible and was graciously given permission to bring the game to PC and finally allow it to see the light of day. A huge fan of early 2000s platformers, especially of the lower budget variety, I take it upon myself to give this long-lost game the release it deserves, and I hope you guys end up loving it as much as I do."
The last video uploaded on the channel is a splash screen for Cyclone Digital, which according to the description dates August 17th, 2000, almost exactly 1 year before the demo build was made. Nothing to note from this video other than that at the very end when the Cyclone Digital website can be seen, hinting at its existence. Okay, now that we've looked into all the outside media related to Happy the Hippo, let's get into the main course, the game itself. However, when you open the game, you're taken to the demo menu. The demo menu consists of 4 games: Happy the Hippo, Recursion, Cruise Control, and White Noise. First, we have Happy the Hippo, the game we've been talking about. The second game is Recursion. According to the Wikipedia, the definition of recursion is when the definition of a concept or process depends on a simpler or previous version of itself. In simpler terms, it's when a process uses itself to solve a problem. The third game is called Cruise Control, which looks to be a driving game. The final game is called White Noise, which is the only game other than Happy the Hippo that you could play on the demo menu. However, we're going to get into what's in this game later. For now, let's check out Happy the Hippo. The game loads you into the world of Midnight Marsh, the main level you could play in the demo. Walking forward just a bit, you can meet your first NPC, simply called Owl.
Good to see you, Happy. Those beavers have been taking over our swamp, and they've scared my poor sheep away. Do you think you could go look for them for me? I hope they're okay.
Owl gives the player a quest to help find the sheep after being scared from beavers that have, quote, been taking over our swamp. Up ahead, you can find a wooden house with the owl standing next to it. It gives you a little tutorial on how to perform something called a magic bomb attack. One thing to note about this house is that almost all the houses you see throughout the game are either sunken into the swamp water or are very abandoned with boards on them, and there is a lock on the front door, which will be crucial later on. After using your newly learned magic bomb attack for some balloon parkour, you can come across your first enemy, a lumberjack looking beaver with an axe. This is what the owl was referring to earlier, and you can find a lot more of them around the level, either chopping down more trees or standing around defending their territory. However, they aren't the only enemy you can come across in this level. There are 2 more enemies in this level, a woodpecker, dressed up as a construction worker, and bats. After killing the beaver, you can come across the owl again just ahead. However, instead of simply being called Owl, now their name is Farmer Milo, presumably their actual name. Milo claims his woodpeckers have been ruining his crops since the beavers have turned off his robotic scarecrows, and asks Happy to reactivate all the scarecrows with his magic bomb ability. Just like what Milo said, throughout the swamp, you could find 12 scarecrows that, when activating all of them, Milo will reward you with a frog named Connie. Every frog in the swamp level all have a unique name, albeit all looking the exact same. According to the progress page for the level, there are a total of 15 frogs you can collect, but soon, you'll find out that you can actually collect a lot more than 15. Turning to the left of Farmer Milo, you can find what's presumably the territory that the beavers took over. In the beavers' territory, you can find a new character, a wizard monkey named Mary, who gives you special abilities, first giving you the bounce ability, which can be very useful when you get to high places you can't originally get to with your magic bomb attack. When getting onto the bridge through the hole behind Mary, if you look underneath the bridge, you can find Farmer Milo standing in front of a portal, but invisible walls block you from entering this portal. When talking to Farmer Milo for a 3rd time, their name is different, but it's the strangest out of all the other names. Squirrel. And that's not all. What Farmer Milo says is even stranger. Farmer Milo claims that they had to remake this minigame because they, quote, certain someone wasn't happy with it. There are a couple of minigames in this level you can play. The first minigame you can get to is a time trial minigame, which is located to the right of the wooden house. Nothing special to note other than that the name for Farmer Milo is once again different with the name Speed Demon Philip. It's likely that a different character with the name Speed Demon Philip was supposed to take place, but Farmer Milo was used as a placeholder since, after all, this is just a demo. The next accessible minigame is a plane minigame, which, spoiler alert, sucks. Nothing much to point out other than that we see a new character called Squirrel Pilot. Remember to keep this character model in mind because later on we're going to be seeing it a lot. Squirrel Pilot doesn't say anything significant, but when you do play the minigame, you can actually spot the squirrel chilling next to a balloon inside a treehouse. As far as I know, nothing happens when you do shoot at it, but I could be wrong. The final minigame is a minigame Farmer Milo said they had to remake. You could actually access this minigame with a glitch called the fly glitch. I'm going to introduce this now because this glitch would be heavily used to find any further secrets in the game. To do this fly glitch, all you have to do is find a body of water you could swim in, preferably water that abruptly ends, like seen in this clip. All you have to do is, instead of exiting the water through the top, just exit through the side, and now you can fly. With this newly found knowledge to get to wherever you want, if you fly underneath a platform where Farmer Milo is standing and enter the portal from behind, you could enter the minigame, which itself is nothing too crazy. All it is a sliding minigame, similar to the sliding minigame from Super Mario 64, but at the very end of the sliding minigame is a frog with the name Placeholder. Going back into the swamp level, we can come across our last enemy for this level, a bat, which is the most annoying enemy in this game so far. The final area of the swamp level is a graveyard. What's interesting to note here is a nice little Easter egg. When stomping on one of the graves, it can play an audio clip.
Hey, I'm sleeping here. Keep it down, will ya? Can a dead guy get a little bit of shut-eye?
Going forward a little bit, you can find a button with Farmer Milo's sheep surrounding it. Pressing it, a cutscene plays, showing the gate opening, and Farmer Milo says,
Thank you for doing the thing, Happy. Here's a frog for some reason.
You could tell the developers really tried their hardest here. After Farmer Milo rewards you with a frog named Wigglebird, you can find Mary behind the opened gate, telling you that the main objective has been completed, but gives you a side quest to collect 8 frogs and 750 walnuts. And if doing so, Mary gives you another special ability, the drop roll ability, which helps you get to places a lot faster. You may have noticed a giant golden portal that opened up behind Farmer Milo. Entering this portal takes you to a thank you screen. Obviously, from what we've seen from the outside media for Happy the Hippo, this game has a lot more to it than it shows. So let's dig deeper into Midnight Marsh. There are a ton of secrets to cover, not only in Midnight Marsh, but levels outside of Midnight Marsh, which we'll get into later. All the secrets I'll be covering in this level won't be in any order, but I still want to cover them just to give you an idea of how packed this game is with secrets, and that there's still so much more secrets in this game, which mostly explains why I have almost 40 hours in this demo. Before we get into the juicy secrets, let's cover the not so secret stuff in this level. Throughout the level, you can find letters scattered around that spell out happy with an exclamation point. The letter H can be found inside a treehouse in the beaver's territory. The letter A can be found at a bird's nest in the farmhouse located near the wooden house. One letter P can be found inside some bushes around the exit of the beaver's territory. I guess that's what I'm calling this place now. And the other letter P can be found in the graveyard above the golden portal on a cliff. The letter Y can be found in a little secluded area high above ground level. And the final letter, the exclamation point, can be found close to the beginning at the swamp level on top of an alligator's head. In the area with the farmhouse, if you look closely, you can see a dirt patch with cracks on it, and sure enough, if you stomp on it with a bounce ability, you can reveal a secret tunnel with Farmer Milo at the end, along with a portal. However, the player is blocked from going any further with a blue force field, which the only way to get through is by unlocking the Fireball ability, which can only be obtained through unethical ways. When successfully reaching Farmer Milo, he will say,
It's hard to keep working on this sometimes. It's just that I work on this game pretty much every day, and even on days when I'm not, I'm at least thinking about working on it. It often feels like it'll never get finished, and even if it does, there's no guarantee anyone's actually going to play it anyway. It sounds silly, but I worry about that a lot. Well, hey, you're here at least. Also, if you're reading this, I either forgot to put in the actual dialogue, in which case, tell me, or you're snooping through my PC, in which case, stop doing that.
Unfortunately, attempting to enter the portal behind Farmer Milo doesn't lead you anywhere, and there's nothing else here. There's a short pathway in the game I didn't mention, and that's when you turn left at the wooden house. At the end of this pathway, you can come across a broken bridge with what appears to be a whole new area that looks inaccessible. Well, believe it or not, you can get over there with a little bit of parkour. Making your way over to this area, it appears to be heavily unfinished, and you can find Farmer Milo over here with, for some reason, bugs with an exclamation point on their back. As far as I know, these bugs don't do anything, and it's unknown to me as to why they exist. When talking to Farmer Milo, with once again the name Squirrel, he'll say,
Hey, Happy! See that big-ass tree behind me? That's the goal. Climb up to the top and rescue the frog. Oh, wait. There's no way up yet. I guess I'll probably have to get around to programming that at some point.
Little did he know, there is a way up there. Using the flag glitch, when you make it to the top of the tree, you can find a frog with the name Placeholder. If you take the time to fly around the map, you may have found a strange sighting. Located far away in the distance, you can find a yellow and white checkered house with a gravestone behind the house, along with the squirrel we saw from the plane minigame, standing next to a golden portal. Walking up to the squirrel, they'll say,
Take the swamp boat to go rescue the lost frog downstream.
There's quite a bit wrong with what the squirrel said, like the fact that there's just straight up no boat around and there's no downstream anywhere. Entering the golden portal, you'll be taken to a title screen, most likely what the original title screen was for Happy the Hippo. In the options menu, none of the buttons work except for sound tests, which presents you sounds for vehicle sound effects, the background music, and strangely a lot of monkey pain sound effects, most likely referencing Mary. Hitting play on the title screen, you're taken to a new level, but we're getting ahead of ourselves. Don't worry, we'll get into what this level has, but I want to make sure I cover everything in Midnight Marsh. You've probably noticed by now, but there's a giant golden beaver statue in front of a house on an island. Apparently, Farmer Milo's house got raided by the beavers, kicking him out and blocking it off with the giant statue. You're able to access this island by using one of the red cannons scattered around the map, or use a fly glitch if you want. Once you make it to the island, if you touch the statue, it'll shatter into pieces, and you'll be rewarded with a frog. However, if you look inside the house with your camera, you can find none other than Farmer Milo sitting in there chilling with no furniture, no nothing. You can actually glitch into the house and talk to Farmer Milo, however, nothing happens when you do so. This is a little off topic, but not. Back in the early to late 2000s, most video games will always have something called a dev room, where it's just credits for the developers and pictures of them. Sure enough, Happy the Hippo has something very similar to this. If you use a fly glitch and fly into a black void inside a farmhouse on a cliff, you can enter the dev room. Inside this dev room, you can find the developers who helped work on Happy the Hippo, along with some pictures from the beta version on the side, including a picture tilted slightly, showing a wooden house on fire, similar to the one that can be found in Midnight Marsh. You can also see some letters above the developers' pictures saying LOTAL, which is widely suspected that this was supposed to read Cyclone Digital. The following developers seen on the wall are Tom Barker, the environmental artist and animator, Rachel Lee, the character artist, Tyler Nelson, the level designer, and Character, the gameplay programmer. If you interacted with this picture and return to Midnight Marsh, this happens. Fun fact, if you press the pause button when the error message shows up, you can see the frog, Walnut, and Happy's face retextured to the man's face. If you return to the dev room after this incident, the man's picture is gone. The rest of the secrets in Midnight Marsh are very little, so I'm just going to go through them very quickly. On rare occasions, a fatal error screen can appear while just casually playing the game. A picture of the wooden house on fire, the same one in the dev room, can sometimes replace the original picture in the journal for Midnight Marsh, and Farmer Milo near the wooden house can replace with a very messed up version called the Abomination. If you press the tilde key on your keyboard, you can open the console command, which is very common in most games. However, if you type in one of the following, fly, ghost, teleport, and more, will result in a cheat screen appearing, showing Happy in the background looking directly at the player with text that reads, "Cheating makes no one happy," followed by the game crashing. When collecting Wigglebird, after pressing the button in the graveyard, if you look closely in the background of the pickup cutscene, you can see Abomination sitting on a cliff, watching the player. Finally, we're done with covering all the secrets in Midnight Marsh, besides one big secret I'm purposely avoiding to add in suspicion. But now, we're going to cover other levels in this game and the secrets they hold. Remember when we covered the trailer for the game and I told you guys to keep note of the very end of the trailer? This is where it comes into play. At the very end of the trailer, we can see what looks to be the person playing the game activating a cheat menu. Sure enough, if you replicate this in the game by clicking on Happy's head 8 times, you can activate the cheat menu, which opens the game up a lot. In this cheats menu, we can see a give life option, which is what it sounds like. Unlock bounce, unlocking the bounce ability early in the game. Big head gives Happy a big head, and if you press big head again, it'll give Happy a small head. The next one is, gosh, this fucking head. Stop. Save game saves the game, and Skeleton Happy, which turns Happy into a skeleton. We could also see a level select on the right side, and the following levels are Swamp, Ruins, Canyon, Proto 2, Dev 1, Dev 2, Dev 3, and Demo Menu. Of course, we've already looked through Swamp, so we'll just skip over to Ruins. Ruins, or Radiant Ruins according to a list of level names, is a heavily unfinished level with an odd layout and a strange skybox, having this blue and pink gradient to it. Immediately when spawning in, we can see the squirrel. However, attempting to get close to the squirrel results in the player getting teleported away from the squirrel. There are a lot of strange things in this level, like a spinning Happy head that when you touch, kills you, or how there's 3 crystals scattered throughout the map, and if you do the magic bomb ability near one of them, activates a platform up to an area with the squirrel. But this time, you can talk to it and simply says, "Thanks, Happy." In the big museum looking place, you can collect a new ability called the Fireball ability, which will be very useful later on. A couple more small things to note is that you can find a frog sitting in the middle of nowhere, and when using the fly glitch to get over there and collect it, this happens. When you enter the level again after collecting the frog, you'll notice that the UI frog is gone. This is because in every level, there is a UI that contains a frog and your power-up abilities, but for some reason, you can just get to these very easily. One final thing to note in this level before we move on, it's a small thing. If you use the command show collision and the console command and use the fly glitch to fly over to this little platforming area, you can find an invisible hitbox which, when touching, makes the player fly into a random direction. I have no idea why this is here or if it serves any purpose, but it's a cool little find nonetheless. The Canyon, or the Cantankerous Canyon, yes, that's the real name, is a very bare bone level, only containing a sign that reads,
Hey Happy, our watermelons got stolen. Can you get them back?
and the aforementioned watermelons scattered around the canyon. Collecting all these watermelons result in nothing happening. When I tell you there's literally nothing in this level, I mean there's just nothing here. No music, no enemies, not even a single frog, just watermelons. There's nothing else to cover in this level, so let's move on. Proto 2, no special name, is exactly what the name sounds like. It's a prototype level. While this level does have a lot more content compared to the canyon, in comparison to the other levels, there is nothing here. Only notable things to point out is a cool silver statue of Happy near spawn. The beavers won't attack the player, nor can you kill the beavers. There's a plane you can pilot, but you can't control it and you end up crashing into a wall. And finally, underneath the map, you can find white and green checkerboard boxes. I first thought there was something to these since they looked very out of place, but unfortunately, there's nothing to them. I'm not sure why they're here since they don't really seem to have a purpose, but oh well, next level. You may immediately recognize this level from the Henry the Hippo PS2 prototype footage video from the Happy the Hippo archive channel. Only differences between this level and the level seen in the video is the ground not being blue checkered, but instead is orange checkered. The watermelon pickup animation isn't present in the demo, and this already existed even in the prototype footage, but you can find an untextured penguin just chilling here. It doesn't do anything, it's just there. It's possible that this penguin character was going to be a part of Happy the Hippo, but for some reason, never made it into the final version. Dev 2 also looks to be another testing level, but more updated, I guess you could say. It's got basic gameplay mechanics, and at the end of this little adventure, you're rewarded with a frog and a golden portal that takes you to a new level. But before we get to this new level, I want to cover some stuff in Dev 2. In the middle of the map, there is a base plate filled with almost all the objects that can be seen in Midnight Marsh. You can find the scroll there, but when you approach him, his name is for some reason Stan. Stan gives Happy a challenge to kill this quote dumbass, and when doing so, Stan, now named changed to Dave, thanks Happy and says he owed him $7. One last thing to note is that there's hidden dialogue in the middle of the air. When activating it, says,
Gaps can be placed to prevent usage of bounce. Obviously.
When entering the golden portal, you're taken back here. Yes, this is the same place we found when entering the golden portal located at the yellow and white checkered house, but this time we'll actually be exploring it. Unlike the last few levels we've checked out, this level isn't a dev level, but what looks to be an unfinished level. I'm not exactly sure what level this is, and it isn't named as far as I know. The only possible contenders for its name are Magic Realm's Home, Weeping Woodlands, Perilous Pass, Fiery Furnace, and Gloomy's Hideaway. The level's gameplay is pretty normal, and at the end of the level, you're rewarded with a frog and a thundercloud ability, the ability to make platforms underneath the player and electrocute nearby objects. However, outside the map, there's quite a bit hidden. There's 3 red cannons out in the void, but when entering one of them, just leads you to death. They don't lead you to anywhere. Near the red cannons, there's what appears to be some untextured looking bathtub. I don't really know what it is, and there isn't anything to it. Finally, near spawn, you can see an area that looks like a testing area, similar to the other dev levels. Nothing to note here other than a posing model of Happy without a hat, and a frog is hidden right underneath this area for some reason. There is a lot to cover in Dev 3. A lot of unused models and content can be found in this level. I won't mention every single model or item that is here, but I'll talk about the unused content or stuff I think is worth mentioning. There's an unused bear model with a sleeping animation and an idle animation, and there's 3 of these bear models in a row that could hurt you with no attack animation or anything. For some reason, there's what appears to be an alligator with a white sheet covering most of their body with bloodshot eyes. I have no idea what this alligator's purpose was going to be or why it was made in the first place. Near the 3 bear models, you can find the scroll NPC, and when approaching them, they'll say,
Hi, Happy. Can you help us with some crap? Absolutely not. Okay.
Near their scroll NPC, you can find a strange looking machine with a glass tube connected to the machine, and near this machine, you can find 3 different variations of Happy that's, interesting, to say the least. Outside of this area, you can find what appears to be an unused racetrack, most likely for a racing minigame that was never made. And finally, there's a golden portal that requires 15 frogs to enter. After collecting enough frogs for the golden portal, you're taken to a new level. There isn't too much to this new level, but we can see 2 beavers chopping separate trees, along with a squirrel in the A pose, and there's a total of 2 frogs you can collect here. Underneath the bridge, you can find for some reason this translucent black square that doesn't do anything when you touch it, and underneath the entire map, you could actually find where the creator made the picture for the main cover, except missing the background. The final level selection in the cheats menu is the demo menu, which obviously isn't a level. However, if you remember from the beginning, I mentioned that White Noise is actually a playable game, and we'll now be looking into it. If you click on White Noise for a random amount of times, you can enter the game. In this game, you're inside what appears to be a basement with red text on the wall that reads, "Let's play." The room may look creepy, but it's nothing compared to seeing this out of bounds. As soon as you see this creature on your screen, it'll begin to back up very quickly, eventually disappearing into the void. Also out of bounds, you can find an untextured house underneath us with a squirrel standing there. If you manage to clip out of the room with the thundercloud ability and talk to the squirrel, it'll say,
They say there's something evil lurking deep in this swamp. Have you seen anything of the sort? Oh, I wouldn't worry too much about it. It's just an urban legend.
This exact line is actually set in Midnight Marsh by Farmer Milo near the broken bridge, and this evil creature they're talking about is likely referring to the creepy face we saw out of bounds. Our final secret to cover isn't in White Noise, but in the demo menu. If you wait on the demo menu screen between 10 to 20 seconds, you could actually see that demon face we saw in White Noise, albeit extremely hard to see, but it's there. The final map we could play is on the beta map. In order to get to this beta map, you have to exit the game while it's saving. The game saves every time you collect a frog, but to make this easier, you can just save the game through the cheats menu. When you open the game back up, you should successfully load into the beta map. You might already recognize this map from the pictures seen in the dev room, where almost all of the pictures originate from this map. We can see a lot of differences from this map and the demo map. One of the major differences is that Farmer Milo was replaced with a squirrel in every sense. Farmer Milo is not seen in this beta map at all. Where we first meet the squirrel, there's actually another squirrel that can be found underneath the map, and not too far away, you can find Mary inside of a wall. As of now, I haven't found a way to reach these two and see if they have any dialogue. It's definitely possible that these two models are stuffed out of bounds to replace an existing model when an event occurs, since this is very common to see throughout the game when you get out of bounds, mostly common with the frogs where you have to do a quest first to get them. However, I don't understand why Mary is sitting there, considering that Mary themselves aren't anywhere near this area. Despite the beta map looking quite different to the demo map, the overall layout is still the same, except for when we get into the beavers territory, where instead of going inside of tree houses, we're just running on bridges, and of course, instead of tree houses, it's just yellow squares. We can actually find the slide minigame around the same area, however, once again, we can't enter it, and the squirrel is blocking the way this time. Instead of Squirrel talking directly to the player, we can actually see the developers giving each other notes, saying,
We'll lead the slide minigame when Tyler's done with that. DL.
And Tyler responded with,
We'll lead the slide minigame when David's dumbass realizes I did finish it and remembers to link this to it. Tyler.
This conversation really sticks out to me, mostly because David has never been mentioned until now, besides when the squirrel's name was changed to Dave in Dev 2, and we're going to learn more about who this David is. Throughout this entire video, I've neglected to talk about a very big secret with this game, one that opens a can of worms for theories. And if you're familiar with the series Petscop or the game Catastrophe Crow, you'll know that there's a pattern behind a reason why the game was created in the first place, to tell a story about some traumatic event or some incident that changed a person's life, mostly for the worse. However, Happy the Hippo lacked this kind of pattern, despite obviously being similar to the bait and switch kind of games, until now. You may have noticed some lightning rods scattered around the map that I've neglected to talk about. There are 4 of these lightning rods, and in order to activate them, you'll need the lightning cloud ability, but instead of summoning lightning clouds, we're going to electrocute the lightning rods. When activating one of these lightning rods, a cutscene will play, showing some trees with swamp water. This looks like it isn't intentional, but trust me, it is. When you activate all 4 lightning rods, this happens. We can see a cliff rise from the swamp water with the squirrel spotted inside a hole on the side. However, its face is blacked out, and every time the squirrel is viewable on screen, the audio stutters, glitching out. This cliff is located outside the graveyard, and the only way to reach this cliff is with a fly glitch. When you reach the scroll, you can actually see what's underneath the black square, a heavily distorted and jittery messed up version of the scary face in the white noise level. When you reach the scroll and fly away, a message will pop up saying, "A new blank has opened," and the scroll will be gone. If you go back to spawn, you'll notice that there's a new golden portal that appeared. However, it requires 25 frogs to enter. When you do have 25 or more frogs entering the portal, you'll find yourself in a very dark environment, surrounded by bushes and trees, with Farmer Milo facing you on the other side from you. Approaching Farmer Milo, whose name has now been changed to Al Randy, you're given the option to say anything to Al Randy, and we can reveal a lot of lore with this. Asking Al Randy what their name is, they'll respond with David. If you ask who you are, Al Randy responds with,
It's hard to tell.
if you ask who is David, they'll say,
David Lee, gameplay programmer.
revealing that the unnamed developer in the dev room is actually David Lee, and we find out who DL is in the notes the developers gave to each other in the beta map, but why he goes unnamed revealed eventually. If you ask, are you David, Al Randy respond with,
Isn't this what my voice sounds like?
if you ask what the abomination is, they'll respond with,
It doesn't feel human.
if you just say Cyclone Digital, Al Randy would give you a short summary on Cyclone Digital, revealing that Cyclone Digital was created by Dan Richards, and that Happy the Hippo is Cyclone Digital's only cancelled original IP. If you say Dan Richards to Al Randy, they'll respond with,
Cyclone Digital 2000.
if you just say Moon, Al Randy will say,
There is only one moon.
and if you ask what/where is the second moon, Al Randy will say,
It moved.
in Midnight Marsh, there's actually 2 moons that could be seen, but I don't know what significance these moons have. I've also found in the game files an image called moon_fish face that shows the scary face on the moon, but as far as I know, this goes unused. If you ask why is Grumbo, the actual creator behind the game, Al Randy will say,
This game isn't that meta, smartass.
if you simply just say Petscop, Al Randy will respond with,
No, fuck you.
if you ask do you need help, or who is behind you, Al Randy will say,
I'm not really in a position to answer that anymore.
and finally, if you say fire or house fire, Al Randy will say,
I didn't notice soon enough. I mean, I did. I guess I just didn't care soon enough.
before closing the text prompt. There's more questions to ask Al Randy, but I want to include the ones I thought were maybe important into the lore or were funny. Before we leave this place to check out what changed in Midnight Marsh, exploring the surrounding area, you could actually see Abomination out of bounds on all 3 surrounding sides. Unfortunately, there's visible walls blocking you from getting to them. Fortunately, with your abilities, you can get out. There's multiple ways to get out, like using a glitch called the step launch on any of the bushes, or just simply using the thundercloud ability to jump onto one of the trees and jumping out. When you make it out, if you approach one of the abominations, this happens. Jump scare warning. After this happens, the game crashes, and when you go back to this place, the abominations aren't there anymore and are never to be seen again. After typing in house fire and leaving the place, a cutscene will play, showing the lock on the front door of the wooden house being broken off. If you use the fireball ability on the house will set on fire and the door will open. Entering the wooden house somehow ends you up outside in a similar environment to when we talked to Farmer Milo, except we're in what appears to be a neighborhood. When you walk forward just a little bit, you can see a house on fire. Going around to the back, we can find an open window into an empty room with Farmer Milo sitting in it.
I'm pouring so much energy into this, just trying so hard to make it work. And it's not healthy. I'm giving it more than I have to give, and it's draining me, and it hurts so much to admit that. I care so much about this, and I want so badly for something to come of it, but it's causing me so much stress. I'm losing so much sleep. I've never felt so unhappy and so anxious just all the time, constantly. Am I supposed to just give up? I don't want to. I really, really don't want to. There's so few things that I care about this much, that I find this much purpose and value and reason in, that are so important and fulfilling to me, that make me feel so important and valid as a human being. And I mean, in the times that it is working, it brings me so much joy, and it's so rewarding in a way that nothing else in my life really is. I don't know who I am without this, but I'm slowly realizing that most of the time, it's just making me really deeply unhappy. I'm shattered by that. how the fuck am I even supposed to handle that?
After the conversation finishes, the ground outside suddenly disappears, and if you fall into the void, you'll be teleported back to Midnight Marsh. However, this isn't all to this place. Instead of falling into the void, if you successfully jump onto the fences and walk to the front, you'll find grass platforms leading to a frog at the end named David. Returning back to the house, if you get onto the roof and enter through the chimney, you'll find yourself in a small bedroom with a phone on the small table ringing constantly in the middle of the room. At first, it seems like you can't do anything with the phone or interact with anything in the room. However, if you wait around for 8 minutes, the phone will pick up and fire begins to engulf the room, and text will appear on screen saying, "Before crashing the game." There is a lot to unpack here. At least in the demo, its main focus is about David Lee. We know David used to work for Cyclone Digital and worked as a gameplay programmer for Happy the Hippo. David had a weird infatuation with developing this game. He even went as far as when a house fire occurred but didn't care and wanted to continue working on the game, despite an unknown person desperately calling David to warn them. After David's death, his soul got sucked into the game, forever living in there. We know David possesses Al Randy, but what about the squirrel? Why did Al Randy replace the squirrel? I believe Squirrel might have been another character possessed by a dead person. My guess is the owner of Cyclone Digital, Dan Richards, if he's dead. I'm not sure what the origin of the abomination is, what it is, who controls it, and such. Whatever the abomination is, according to David, it's not human and seems to have control over David or maybe the game. The abomination, I believe, was stuck inside the place that required 25 frogs to get into, and when the player, quote, releases the abomination, it likely began living in the full game. However, this doesn't make sense because Abomination already appears in the full game. It can be seen multiple times, like in the background of a cutscene when we collect a frog, the model for the owl near the wooden house can get replaced with the Abomination for a rare chance. I believe the Abomination wasn't released into the full game, but it now began living inside your computer. There are still a couple of lore bits I'm not too sure what their involvement is, like the 2 moons, the scary face we see a lot, and some other minor details. This demo is really fun to play through, and I'm very hyped for what the full game has to offer. Big thanks to Grumble, the developer of the game, for just making the game, and also big thanks to CJ for doing the voice acting. Their socials will be linked in the description, and thank you guys for watching this video. This took a pretty long time to make. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you liked the video, please subscribe to my channel. I make more content like this, and again, thank you for watching.